This video is sponsored by @TheTypicalLiberal, @Tomorrow'sConservatives, and @ConservativePatriot.
Well, I guess that makes you the next Cro-Magnon find then, eh, Hunter?
Man, I'm so bored. What can I do that's really disgusting but is socially acceptable for some reason and will get me lots of attention?
I don't know, be an edgelord conservatard on YouTube?
I got it. Please, call me Jakelin.
Ah, Jacqueline Glenn parodies! I never would have thought of it.
You are such a hero. 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 Hero.
Well, brace yourself, people. It might just be a long one.
Hey guys, Hunter Avallone here, and I really hope you're ready for this video, 'cause I know I am.
I got my wipes ready, Hunter.
Truth is, being transgender is not normal.
I think you'll find that the term is not the norm, not normal. Yes, they're only, 0.1% of the population, maybe a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that these people themselves aren't normal. Normal is the wrong word for this type of thing, really. You mean they are not the norm. They are not people who are like us, who don't have gender dysphoria. They are not the norm. We are the norm. But then again, what is normal? Because I've got high-functioning autism. I'm mixed race. Am I the norm in my country? No. I'm a minority in two categories there. I'm not white, and I'm not mentally normal? As you can see, normal is not the word, but norm. The norm is a much better way of saying that. But in essence, I do agree with what you're saying. They are not normal, and I don't think most sane transgender people are trying to say that they aren't the norm/normal. That they're just trying to get acceptance, really.
Sorry, but the idea that you're a man trapped in a woman's body, or a woman trapped in a man's body, is simply not normal.
Yes, we have established that, Hunter. It isn't the norm. It isn't a normal thing that people feel. And we accept that. And let's try and help these people. What are your suggestions?
When people get their body parts hacked off and replaced with new ones during a sex change, that simply is not normal.
That's a bit of a silly thing to say. Not everyone's body parts are hacked off. In fact, they're not necessarily hacked off. I don't know if you've seen the South Park episode where Mr. Garrison transitions. That's not really getting hacked off, more it's being sewn upside down inside of you to make it into some kind of vagina or something. I don't know if that's how it actually works. You don't actually have to be castrated or have your dick cut off. Now, for some people, and I've been told this by Frozen Binary, my good friend, who is trans, that the hormone treatment, I think, and the gender dysphoria and everything does make things hard, and that castration probably does help them in terms of alleviating pain or some kind of feeling that they get, but you don't have to be castrated. And I don't know what you mean by grafting other parts on. They don't graft parts on unless you mean they grow breasts if they're transitioning to a woman, which, is not hard if you pump a lot of estrogen into somebody. For example, if a man happened to have his balls taken out because of testicular cancer, like for example Meatloaf in Fight Club, he can actually grow breasts because testosterone is lowered in his body and estrogen increases. He doesn't become a woman, he becomes a eunuch probably, but he can, in some cases, grow breasts. I don't know if he can lactate or anything, but I just thought I'd point that out.
And I don't think it ever will be. Despite what the left-wing hypocrites have to say, I don't think we should just shrug our shoulders and accept this very strange behavior.
Left-wing hypocrites? How are they hypocritical? But I'm sure you'll explain that in a minute. And what's wrong with just accepting that some people have an issue that needs to be dealt with, and that they might not be normal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be accepted? I mean, would you agree with me? I don't know what your views on homosexuality is, but would you agree with me that these people should be left alone to have sex with whoever they want as long as it's legal? So how come we can't accept trans people in a similar way? These are just men and women trapped in the wrong body, and they need help, and they need to be given the right body, if that makes any sense. There's nothing wrong with that, with accepting these people. I don't get it. You don't have to view them as normal, because they're not. They'll never be the norm, but they can be viewed as humans. They're just humans at the end of the day, like you and me. What's so wrong with that, and how is that hypocritical?
I think we should work together and get these people help.
Well, then everybody is in agreement. These people need help, so why are we arguing over them? Surely we should accept, yes, they are not the norm, but you need help. You are fellow human beings. We accept you. What is wrong with that? Hunter, we are in agreement here. Are we disagreeing over an agreement?
In 2015, a Johns Hopkins psychiatrist named Dr. Paul McHugh says that being transgender is a mental disorder and a sex change is biologically impossible. The pro-transgender advocates do not want you to know that studies show 70 to 80% of children who express transgender feelings spontaneously lose those feelings over time.
Yes. This little thing. Well, in that same study, they also happened to include people who were not trans, but were called gender non-conforming. Basically, tomboys and men who are a bit on the effeminate side, who aren't trans, who do feel like men and women, and aren't confused about that. They know what they are. They're more confused about their... I don't want to say anything like what a social justice warrior would say, but their roles, maybe? You know, one's more, say the boy's more into dolls, or the girl's more into playing army, etc., that kind of thing. They're not confused about what they feel like as a gender. And that's why this study is as high as it is. 70 to 80%, you do realise that transgender people are only 0.1% of the population, so that means that 30 to 20% of the people didn't renounce this so-called trans phase, were actually trans people, and the rest were clearly just cis people who were tomboys and effeminate. Now, as for John McHughes, well, you see, this is a guy who has a very religious agenda. He if you look the man up, you can clearly see that this guy is actually from a medical organisation that's split from the main branch of the APA. I think it's the APA, I could be wrong. Equal Rights Advocate, who I will be quoting in this video, and who has helped me with this video, did a video on him, I do believe. And I would not trust this man who uses a study that is warped by including people who aren't even trans. But anyway, Hunter, do go on.
He then says that a sex change is biologically impossible, and to claim this is a civil rights matter and to encourage surgical intervention is in reality to promote a mental disorder.
Only the most clueless social justice warrior would say it's not a mental disorder. Trans people know that they do have something wrong with them and that they need it to be addressed. And at the moment, the best way to deal with that is transitioning. And to keep it on topic right now, let's have a look at teenagers. In this study, they studied about a total of 55 young transgender adults, 22 trans women and 33 trans men, who had received puberty suppression during adolescence and were assessed 3 times before the start of puberty suppression, mean age 13.6 years, when cross-sex hormones were introduced, mean age 16.7 years, and at least 1 year after gender reassignment surgery, mean age 20.7 years, psychological functioning, GD, body image, global functioning, depression, anxiety, emotional and behavioural problems, and objective social and educational / professional functioning, and subjective quality of life, satisfaction with life and happiness, well-being were investigated. And what did they find out, people, you may ask? Results: after gender reassignment in young adulthood, the GD was alleviated and psychological functioning had steadily improved. Well-being was similar to or better than same-age young adults from the general population. Improvements in psychological functioning were positively correlated with post-surgical subjective well-being. And as for that study that McHughes quotes, well, our findings suggest that sex reassignment, although alleviating gender dysphoria, may not suffice as treatment for transsexualism and should inspire improved psychiatric and somatic care after sex reassignment for this patient group. So even they admit that it works, that it alleviates it. Of course, though, they do mention that there's a higher probability of depression and suicide rates, but we'll get into that shortly because you're obviously going to touch upon that, Hunter, aren't you? While the other study suggests that it completely helps them in loads of different ways. So, Hunter, you need to do more research and stop trying to further your own confirmation bias.
But come on, guys, we can just ignore that. Let's just keep giving out operations. That's what stupid people like to call smart.
Let's look at what studies have to say on how transitioning helps transgender people. San Diego Clinic finds high need for treatment of transgender youth. This study by the Endocrine Society examined 42 children with gender dysphoria. 26 patients reported some sort of depression, anxiety, or cut themselves. They were given puberty blockers and later cross-gender hormones. Mental health checkups were available for 22 of the 26 patients, and all but 2 showed improvement. Maja Marinkovic ends with saying, "There needs to be not only greater awareness and acceptance of this minority group, but also improved accessibility to care for youth with gender dysphoria to decrease the problems often seen in patients who are transgender." Study from the American Society of Pediatrics, Mental Health of Transgender Children Who Are Supported in Their Identities. This study looked at children who were transgender and supported by their parents and their cisgender siblings. They discovered that the transgender children showed no elevations in depression and only slightly elevated anxiety relative to the population averages. Conclusion: socially transitioned transgender children who are supported in their gender identity had developmentally normative levels of depression and only minimal elevations in anxiety, suggesting that psychopathology is not inevitable within this group. Transsexual patients' psychiatric comorbidity and positive effects of cross-sex hormonal treatments on mental health. Results from a longitudinal study. This study looked at the anxiety of transgender people before and after they went on hormone replacement therapy. At enrollment, the mean SAS self-rating anxiety scale score was above the normal range. The mean STS self-rating depression scale and SCL-90R symptoms checklist 90R scores were on the normal range except for the SCL-90R anxiety subscale. When treated, patients reported lower SAS, STS, and SCL-90R scores with statistically significant differences. Therefore, hormonal treatment seems to have a positive effect on transsexual patients' mental health. Hormonal treatment reduces psychobiological distress in gender identity disorder, independent of the attachment style. This study looked at a cortisol awakening response of transgender people before and after starting hormone replacement therapy. Cortisol is a hormone that is released when people are under stress or have low blood sugar, and shows an increase in the morning, probably due to facing anticipated stress. At enrollment, transsexuals reported elevated CAR cortisol awakening response. Their values were out of normal. They expressed higher perceived stress and more attachment insecurity with respect to normative sample data. When treated with hormone therapy, transsexuals reported significantly lower CAR, falling within the normal range for cortisol levels. Treated transsexuals also showed lower perceived stress, with levels similar to normative samples. Conclusion: our results suggest that untreated patients suffer from a high degree of stress and that attached insecurity negatively impacts the stress management. Initiating the hormonal treatment seems to have a positive effect in reducing stress levels, whatever the attachment style may be. Now, Black Pigeon almost exclusively talked about transgender women for their video, probably because talking about transgender men wouldn't have allowed them to use the dehumanizing term gilded. However, another study looked at transgender men after they had sex reassignment surgery. Quality of health and sexual health after sex reassignment surgery in trans men. It concluded, results of the current study indicate transsexual men generally have a good quality of life and experience satisfactory sexual function after sex reassignment surgery.
This leads me to my second truth. Truth is, gender is not a social construct. The entire notion that gender is just a social construct and you can pick and choose your gender is a bunch of Tumblr bullcrap. And no, I don't care about what hairy, ugly, Lacey Green has to say. I care about facts and I care about reality.
Most people are in agreement with you there, Hunter, including me and including loads of other people who are cis and trans, etc, etc. We are all in agreement here. So this is probably another agreeing but disagreeing or something that I mentioned before. I don't know what else to say. Only stupid Tumblrinas and gender warriors would disagree with us.
This one blogger named May goes as far as to say that even sex is a social construct and can be changed. She even goes as crazy as to write, "There's nothing male about XY chromosomes, testosterone, body hair, muscle mass, or male body parts." Teacher, Miss May? Question? Yeah. So, let me get this straight. What makes a man isn't really what makes a man a man. Okay. Got it. Oh look, she's a lesbian trans woman. This is all starting to make a lot more sense.
Now, your problem here, Hunter, is that you are basically saying to us and your audience that all of this is linked to transgender people or transgenderism, this whole social justice, third wave feminist bullshit, that all gender is a social construct. Oh hell, even the JJ Talks thing that biological sex is a social construct. That couldn't be further from the truth, because we have trans people who don't believe in that shit and just say we are trying to go from one gender to the other, hence why we're called transgender people. We want to be the gender that we are. And there are definitely some, like that woman that you quoted, who do believe this shit. But remember, they're not doing this necessarily because they believe it. They've got an agenda to push. Their identity politics requires that this type of stuff is espoused, because they're trying to basically, I don't know how to describe it other than they're trying to change the status quo but defend the status quo at the exact same time. They're trying to push forward legislation for their own political ideology, their own hard left, extremist left ideology. That's why they do this. They have to make sure that these things are completely and utterly void in order to push more legislation in. That's the best that I can come up with right now, considering how bloody tired I am right now. But please don't equate the two. You're doing something incredibly wrong. This is kind of like a guilt by association. You're putting all the people who are trans into this bracket. I don't know if you're doing this intentionally, and it's not fair, because there are anti-SJWs who are trans. Theron Meyer, Blair White, equal rights advocate, Frozen Binary Studios, who would all agree with you that this is bullshit. So again, why are you doing this? Why are you throwing them to the wolves over what one person says, even though I know she's not the only one who says this? Also, I forgot to add that a lot of people will say this because they think it's cool, like people on Tumblr. They think it's cool to do this, like Milo Stewart. But let's not put everyone in the same bracket here. That's a bit collectivist, like what they do. Please, Hunter, don't do this. Don't be a right-wing collectivist.
And where's the science to prove all of this? I've looked online and all I see are blogs or articles with no proof given. Even the definition Google gives me admits this is a view present in many theories about gender.
Oh, you're not gonna go all stereotypical right-wing on us like, it's just a theory. Now, is this the definition of theory that's the hypothesis? Or is this a theory that proves the hypothesis? I personally will say that you think you're on about hypothesis definition, and I would agree with you. Most of this is hypothesizing, because as you know, they don't actually prove any of this bullshit. It's just a load of uncited bullshit from sociologists. So I'll give you that one. But please, remember, there's a difference between the hypothesizing definition and the theory that explains the whole hypothesis, what proves a hypothesis. That's what we mean by theory of relativity, etc, etc.
It's only a theory. Your feelings just don't matter. Only facts do. And remember, facts always trump feelings.
You only get to say that with so much certainty if your facts are actually good enough for you to say that, and sadly, your facts have not been good enough. You've linked us to someone who is one of the most unscrupulous doctors in existence. You are also technically quoting a study that uses people who just don't and I'm using this in inverted commas, don't conform to their gender as trans people, even though they're just people who are a bit manly or a bit girly, depending on who they are. So you don't get to say that.
This absolutely ridiculous idea opens the door to all kinds of insanity. For example, this 52-year-old father ditched his family and now identifies as a 6-year-old girl.
I can't deny I was married. I can't deny I have children. But I've moved forward now, and I've gone back to being a child. I don't want to be an adult right now, and I just live my life like I couldn't when I was in school.
There were trans people crying about this as well, how bad it is, and there were trans people decrying this, and how this guy isn't trans, he's just someone who wants to do some strange roleplay thing with these two people. I can't remember the story very well, but look, we're in agreement. This is stupid, okay?
Even worse, this 20-year-old Norwegian nutcase identifies as a cat now.
Jeg nano, 20 år. Jeg har vært katt hele livet. Jeg katten jeg begynner å purre og mjauve. Og gå rundt på 4 ben og sånne ting. Og så elsker jeg å sove i vasken og vinduskarmen.
You think she's crazy right now? Just wait until you see her after she's eaten the catnip.
That girl is an otherkin, not trans. They are completely separate things, completely different things. Although otherkin are kind of related to headmates to some degree. I'm not so sure about that. But she is not trans. She's not literally saying she's a cat, as much as you would like to think, because there's various points throughout that video where it's pretty obvious that she's just doing this for attention. Literally, it's just an attention thing with her. She knows she's just pretending. I mean, they tell her to do something once or something in that video, and she's kind of like, maybe, no, I'm not so sure about that. Because she knows it's bullshit. It's like a psychic, basically. Like, tell them to, predict the future right now. They can't do it on the spot, can they? They have to be in the zone. It's like that, basically.
Because of this ridiculous gender notion, you are opening the door to insanity. Hi.
Slippery slope argument on the field. So by basically helping actual trans people who need their issues to be dealt with, we're opening the door to these fuckwits. And not maybe the fact that giving these people the attention that they're craving and seeking is perhaps what's opening the door to these people, furthering more problems. Because as we've seen on Tumblr, and as Internet Aristocrat has pointed out, if you allow these people to do the things that they do, potentially schizophrenic people, potentially people with other mental health issues, might start actually believing this shit and make themselves even more ill, and things could spill on from there. That could be a proper slippery slope, because then those people won't get the treatment or will refuse treatment because they're just saying, no, I'm not ill because this says so. Maybe that I could agree with, but not by basically accepting trans people. That doesn't make any sense, Hunter.
YouTube. So, since gender is just a social construct, and men can be women, and women can be men, and retards can be animals, I can finally come out of the closet of Value City and be my true self. I am trans sofa. I identify as a sofa on the weekends and a potato on the weekdays. My pronouns are Z, Zai, and Zumi Lumi.
Again, that's you being otherkin, not being trans.
Chromosomes are what give you your gender, and they cannot be changed. It doesn't matter how much testosterone or how much estrogen you get pumped into you. Truth is, transgenders are not heroes.
I'm not claiming that they're heroes. Only idiots will claim that they're heroes. They're definitely brave going into this surgery, especially if it's frowned upon in their communities and countries. I think the people who are doing it in places where they have a real big chance of being killed if they do this are probably heroes, but in the West, probably not so many of them. But, what is a hero? Another man's terrorist is another man's hero or something. Maybe that's a false equivalence, people, I don't know. But to answer the other part, well, yeah, at least not yet, we can't change the chromosomes, but we can change someone's body to such a degree, especially if you do it before puberty, that they basically do become male or female, despite the chromosomes. It's a very blurry area, but nonetheless, they do changed significantly that they can be called male or female.
This is something that bothers me to no end. That liberals, social justice warriors, and feminists all act like coming out as transgender or getting a full sex change makes you some kind of a hero.
Which liberals? See, again, he's doing this right-wing thing where he just lumps all the people who aren't even SJWs as SJWs, as if we all think the exact same things. I'm not seeing someone who thinks the way that I do, or like Sargon does, or the way that, I don't know, Louis Laval thinks, as view them as heroes. You would have to be an incredibly mopey, kind of soppy person to think that. Look, it depends on the situation and context of these people transitioning. If they're doing it where it's illegal and they've pushed boundaries of acceptance, maybe people will begin to question the law, etc. Yeah, maybe they are heroes. The first people who were ever, transitioning are heroes, obviously. The Danish girl, I forgot her real name, sadly, and some people in the 60s, they are heroes because they helped get us to where we are today. Whether it's good or bad, depending on your opinion, the fact that more people are being accepted is a good thing. They're heroes. But normal ones who, nowadays, in the West especially, who are just transitioning, if they live in a place where it's accepted, their parents accept them, their family accept them, their friends accept them, then yeah, you're right. It's not a heroic thing. But, again, context matters.
Caitlyn Jenner is not a hero, so stop treating him like one.
And yes, I did pick on you using the wrong pronouns just then. Caitlyn is actually trans, okay? Let's get this out of the way. If they're not attention seekers like Milo Stewart, please use the right pronouns. I'm not trying to tone police you or whatever. I'm just saying there's a difference between actual people who have been transitioning for God knows how long, going through all the torment and the health problems that's associated with it, compared to some person who's just doing it for attention. You doing this kind of makes people just do it to everyone, and this makes relations bad for everyone. It just, Hunter, you probably did it just to trigger people. You're probably doing this for a joke, but I just thought I'd point that out. It leaves a horrible taste in people's mouths.
Caitlyn Jenner killed someone. Oh, but let's just ignore that because he's a hero now.
Didn't she do that after she came out? So, therefore, she's no longer a hero anyway. But yeah, you'd have to be a soppy, stupid person to think that they're perfect in every way. They're humans, like I said. While you're doing the complete opposite of what the social justice warriors do, none of you are actually treating them like human beings who have pros and cons, faults and things that they're good at. We're all human. We all do things that are horrible, and she caused an accident that killed people. We know this. So, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Jenner accepted the Courage Award. The President of the United States tweeted Jenner, calling it courage.
Yeah, wasn't this before she caused the deaths of those people? Isn't the trial still going on? I've not kept up with Caitlyn Jenner because, it's celebrity gossip and I don't follow celebrity gossip. What are you trying to say with the Caitlyn Jenner thing? That they're capable of killing people? They're humans. Humans are a violent species. It doesn't matter what gender, okay? You are capable of violence. Again, what is this saying? Are you saying this about her as an individual, or are you trying to say this as a demographic? Because if you're trying to say that, oh, look, Caitlyn Jenner exists, therefore this demographic is such a thing, that just feeds into the social justice propaganda, and and they'll make you look like a bigot, and they'll make everyone else, guilt by association, bigots. So you're not doing a very good thing here, Hunter.
That's right, guys. A little chop and stitch never failed to get me a liberal's approval.
Caitlyn Jenner's a Republican. I don't think she's looking for liberal approval. Certainly she was probably looking for some of that celebrity gossip money, but then again, hey, whatever, she can do what she wants. It's a free society, I don't care how she makes her money. She'd pretty much already done amazing feats at the Olympics anyway, so let her make her money. I don't think looking for liberal approval was her thing. It's so funny because when she said she was going to vote Republican, even though this has always been a thing, like everyone knew she was a Republican, all the social justice warriors went apeshit, and since she's come out as trans and has become very popular, all the conservatives are like, oh, she's just seeking liberal approval. Make your minds up, people, okay? This is getting a bit horseshoe.
On top of all this bullcrap, the worst of all, Jenner even won the Woman of the Year award. You could have chosen anyone at all. Would you tell someone with a serious mental illness like schizophrenia that he's a hero? Probably not.
You should be laughing that she won it. Really? We all those other shitlords were laughing. But whatever. Look, she won an award. So what? It doesn't mean anything. It means literally nothing. Why are you getting triggered over this? It's like the most vapid award. Well, all awards are vapid to a degree, but whatever, man. Chill out. She won an award. And again, what she suffers from is not the same as schizophrenia. You're doing another false equivalence. How many fallacies are you going to commit in one video, Hunter?
So stop commending transgenders. It's a mental illness, not heroism.
Again, who is doing this? Nobody's treating all of them as heroes. Not even the SJWs will be doing that. Again, they're just normal people. And I think people just overreacting against people like you. That's what they're doing. They're inflating the heroism in order to combat you inflating how horrible they are. When really, as we know, and I don't want to make an argument that everything's in the middle, it is literally in the middle. They're just human beings like the rest of us. The SJWs will pick who they like and who they dislike, no matter what you say or what they say. They will not like people like Blair White. They will not like people like Frozen Binary. They will not like Caitlyn Jenner even, as I said before. As soon as she came out in favour of Trump and the Republican Party, even though everybody knew that she was a fan of the Republican Party, she'd supported them all her adult life, or at least some of it. I have no idea how long she's been a supporter. She was no longer popular with them, because that's what they're like. Just like how she wasn't popular with you lot either when she came out as trans, funnily enough. But whatever, I guess this is how the world works, isn't it, Hunter?
And lastly, truth is, transgenders deserve rights just like everyone else, but they do not deserve extra rights.
I agree with that, but we're not at that moment where they are trying to get extra rights. We're not quite at that level that the third wave feminists are at, but nevertheless, continue, Hunter.
You want to go put on a dress and tell everyone you identify as a woman? Great, you have the right to do that. You want to identify as a 6-year-old girl today and then be a cat tomorrow? Cool, go for it. You have the right to be a transgender, but you do not have the rights to infringe on other people's rights. I've seen this happen in locker rooms and bathrooms. Back in 2015, controversy arose because of this.
More than 150 students walked out to protest the use of a girls' locker room by a student who was born male but identifies as a female.
The students have every right to protest this. It's an uncomfortable situation, and I fully agree with them. What's even worse, though, is that this transgender student has no respect for the girls' privacy rights at all. He goes on to say,
They are claiming that they're uncomfortable. I don't believe for a second they are.
and I don't believe for a second that you're a girl.
I think this is pure and simple bigotry.
Disagreement does not equal bigotry.
I agree with the gist of what you're saying, but is this person actually trans? Or again, are they like a trans-trender, which is what a lot of trans people call the people who do it because they think it's cool or because it's edgy? You're not giving me a whole lot of context here, so what am I supposed to believe here? Is the protest justified? Is it not justified? I don't know what to say to this. You're making this hard to pin down. You're basically saying a whole lot of things without really saying anything. What do I do? Is this guy actually transitioning? I mean, it looks like he's trying. He's got the long hair. He's definitely got more of a female act about him than a male. But then again, he could just be androgynous. I don't know. You're not giving me the context here. What am I supposed to believe? Just you? I can't believe you, and I can't believe him either, or her. I don't know. I can't believe these people or you until I see the actual facts.
Based on past evidence, these girls have every reason to be uncomfortable with the transgender in their bathroom.
Oh, so now I know what you're doing here. You're now doing what the feminists will do if they're trans-exclusionary radical feminists. Oh, we can't be having these people in these bathrooms because they used to be physically men, but now they're physically women. Although there's even evidence to suggest that they have male or female brains, or at least something akin to that. We can't be having them in here because they might rape people, they might sexually assault people. This is actually quite misandrist almost. Just because the person was born a male, therefore it is automatically assumed that because they walk into that toilet that they are going to sexually assault someone. That is actually quite a bigoted thing to say, and that's probably what the person in the news clip was referring to. And I agree, it's not only anti-male, it is anti-trans. That's not fair. You don't know why he went into that bathroom. She could probably have just wanted a toilet. I mean, You just don't know.
Who's to say this isn't a predator?
Would you say the exact same thing to a woman transitioning to a man? I highly doubt it.
This kind of thing has happened before when a man dressed as a woman filmed hours of footage in women's bathrooms.
A man dressed as a woman does not equal a trans person, Hunter, okay? I don't think your audience are that dumb, and if they are, they should kind of be ashamed of themselves and have a look in the mirror. And maybe, go to Chris Reagan and see if he's got any bleach on over. But I am, of course, talking about that in jest. I don't mean that whatsoever. So don't sue me. But to be serious and frank once more, this was clearly the case of a man dressing as a woman filming. He was either a transvestite, which I highly doubt anyway, or just a predator who thought, I know, I can pass as a very convincing woman, therefore I'm going to do all this shit. And he did it. You did not actually say that he was trans, you just said it was a man.
And another time when a teen wearing a wig and a bra was found in a woman's bathroom. A few years ago, a woman's Planet Fitness membership was revoked after she complained about a man in her bathroom.
Cormier is talking about a man who walked into the women's locker room while she was getting undressed. She says she couldn't believe her eyes.
They proceeded to tell me that they have to embrace whatever sex somebody thinks they are and that they're allowed to use whatever restroom that they would want to use.
But she says this man looked like a man, and that caught her off guard.
Again, non-contextualized footage and news does not give me a whole picture of what you're trying to say here. This doesn't prove that these trans people aren't to be trusted at all. I mean, I'm not denying that there probably are some, trans women who are a little bit on the predatory side. There probably are. I mean, if they're in cis men and women, they're going to be in trans men and women, okay? That's going to happen. But there'll be very, very small percentage of them because there's not a lot of trans people anyway. So, again, what is this supposed to prove? That because some cis people have done it, and maybe one that may have been trans or not, because in that video, what am I supposed to believe? There's no confirmation that he was transitioning from a man to a woman. That's just what he said, and she suggested the opposite. Again, I don't know. I don't know the whole context. So this doesn't prove anything. This just, if anything, creates more paranoia, and hell, it could, in theory, create more hatred towards these people. They've already got enough on their plate, and if this is such a big issue, this whole toilets thing and changing rooms thing, well, let's just, I don't know, make gender neutral things alongside them. Gender neutral toilets and changing rooms alongside women's and men's. If you don't feel comfortable going into either men or women, go to the gender neutral thing if you think people aren't going to think you're passing well enough. Or if you're not comfortable going to the unisex one, just go to whichever one that you identify with, problem solved. And who knows, maybe in the future where this whole thing has been sorted out, all those toilets will be gender neutral. I don't know, it might end up being Star Trek, I have no idea.
I personally believe that you should be required to use the bathroom based on your body, not your mentally decided gender.
But transgender people go through physical changes. If they've gone through the whole shebang, therefore they should go to whatever toilet that they identify with, right? I mean, I don't say they identify as toilets, I'm just saying, the gender that it's designated for, right? That's what you're saying. So if these people have progressed in their surgery to an extent that they can, and do look like men or women, does that mean that they should go in there? Because some people won't be able to tell if they are trans or not. You see how grey this goes, how silly this gets. Look, I agree, if you're pre-op, you should, for now, go to the one that you look like, and then slowly, as it progresses, you should go to the other one. It's common sense, isn't it? But you're doing this authoritarian thing where they should do this because I think you're male, even though you clearly show physical traits, and hell, even mental traits, that you are not actually male or female. You're this, that, and the other. That's stupid. And you can't force people to do that. Even if you do it by law, it would be derided, and it could help even be unconstitutional. But whatever, it's only unconstitutional when you feel like it, isn't it?
Again, your rights as a transgender do not trump anyone else's rights.
It also goes the other way, and again, I missed something out before, but when I suggested that gender neutral toilets alongside gendered toilets could be a thing, you and social justice warriors probably would also complain, because you would complain, yeah, but then men will go in to attack women and all that bullshit. So either we let them use the toilet or we don't, because it's clear that neither side can be pleased. There's no solution. You're not offering any solutions. You're just offering bullshit. You're just complaining. And by the way, you do, like I said before, your rights should not impede their rights either. They deserve this basic thing that we take for granted. But then again, I would be treading old ground, so I'm going to move on. It's clearly falling on deaf ears.
Being transgender is a mental illness, hardly heroism, and if we start calling it what it is, we can work together to fix the problem and help those who are currently suffering.
You've not offered any solutions at all in this video, Hunter. You've just espoused some bullshit that TERFs espouse and some other conservatives who are anti-trans espouse, and there's no actual things that you want to help them with. It seems like you're more content in just deriding a whole demographic because a small section of that demographic and a small demographic of a larger demographic say all these things. You are painting them with one broad stroke, and it's ridiculous. You've offered nothing. You don't look like you want to help them. You don't seem, no matter what you say, like you are helpful, like you are extending a hand. If anything, most trans people would probably tell you to piss off, because they would be angered at shit like this, to be associated with people who think they're cats.
Well, that's the end of the video, and I'm sure 80% of the comments will be, "You're transphobic!" But screw that. I'd rather be called transphobic and have some common sense. Speaking of common sense, if you have any at all, go check out at The Typical Liberal, at Tomorrow's Conservatives, and at Conservative Patriot on Instagram. Their links are in my description below, so be sure to check them all out and give them a follow.
You've exhibited very little common sense, especially in regards to all the toilet shenanigans and all that. In fact, you've offered nothing. You've offered no solutions, no nothing. You decided, here's the common sense that I'm going to show you after the little bit of common sense that I showed earlier about only two genders, the social justice thing, all that bullshit that we all agree with, stuff that we agreed on. You know what I mean, Hunter. I'm shilling for these guys. Go follow these people. It's just like, yeah, that's common sense. Yeah, sure. It's common sense, people, although I'm not going to show you any common sense solutions. I'm going to stop repeating myself.
And as always, leave a like, subscribe to my channel for new videos every other week, and comment below with your thoughts. I'm Hunter Avallone.
It's so funny you'd rather be considered transphobic and still have common sense, even though you haven't showed much in this video. I'm not gonna go full on and say that you are. It seems like you're mostly actually misinformed, although that shaming that you did halfway through to the end does make one question whether or not you do not deserve that label. But anyway, people, that's the end of the video. I've got nothing else to say other than this is not the truth. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm necessarily telling the truth. I'm just saying what I have read up and what friends and what scientists have been saying. And I leave you with my presentation. It's up to you to decide. So, see you later.